In this video, we're going to make the best cleric in D&D 5e without taking any cleric levels. By level 20, this character will do almost 100 damage per round against a single target and will have even more healing options than a traditional cleric would. So, starting with the race, we will be going with custom lineage. It's just the best race in the game for most builds, and we'll actually be taking a half feat here that synergizes with our build, so it's even better. That half feat being the telekinetic feat. So we'll get our +2 to charisma and then another +1 from that. So we'll start with an 18 in charisma, which if you're doing point buy is only possible with custom lineage. For the background, I'd recommend taking any of the Strixhaven backgrounds if they're available at your table. It's essentially just a free feat and super nice to have early in the game for those additional options. It's not important to the build at all, but I figured I would at least mention it because it's just that good. And for our ability scores from top to bottom, assuming we used point buy, will be a strength of 8, a dexterity of 13, a constitution of 14, an intelligence of 9, a wisdom of 13, and a charisma of 15, +2 from custom lineage, and +1 from our telekinetic feat, giving us a total of 18, as I mentioned in the race portion earlier. If you're rolling for ability scores, I would prioritize charisma first, then constitution, then dexterity. And starting off at level 1 here, we will be a sorcerer 1, taking the divine soul sorcerer's origin, if you didn't guess based on the title. And this will give us access to the cleric spell list and the favored by the gods ability. This will be a really good ability if you really need to make that attack roll or saving throw. The main reason we're starting sorcerer here instead of warlock is for constitution saving throw proficiency, so we can maintain concentration on our spells. Both our damage and control will be super reliant on our concentration later on, so I think this is important to start with. And speaking of concentration, I think our best option is Bless, which you can actually get for free from the Divine Soul Sorcerer, so I think at level 1 here, that is the best option to be concentrating on. For our first level spell choices, I would pick up Shield and Healing Word, just to fill that cleric role in our party, and because our AC is going to be pretty low in these early levels, though Absorb Elements or Silvery Barbs would be decent options as well. And at level 2 will be a Warlock 1. We'll be taking the Celestial, Otherworldly Patron, which you also probably guessed by the title of this video. But it gives us 2 bonus cantrips, Light and Sacred Flame, which are both decent additions. We won't make too much use of them, but they could come up in a pinch. We also get the Healing Light feature, sort of a combination of Healing Word and Lay on Hands. We get a pool of D6s that we can use to heal somebody as a bonus action if they're within 60 feet of us. Now, since we're only taking a few Warlock levels for this build, I would save these D6s strictly for when party members go down. This is usually the best use case for something like Healing Word anyway, but we have even more limited use of this, so I would save it strictly for those situations. The only cantrip I would say you need to take is Eldritch Blast. It will be super important for this build, along with 2 invocations to go along with it, but we'll talk about that next level. For first level spells, the only thing I'd recommend is Hex, if you'd like a different concentration option than Bless for these early levels, but other than that, you can pick whatever you would like. Now that we have light armor proficiency, if you can afford it, I would say you should pick up some studded leather. That's the best we can do for our AC right now, unfortunately. It'll only be about a 13 if you have that 13 in dexterity, but we will improve this a lot later on. At level 3 will be a Warlock 2, and we'll get Eldritch Invocations. And like I said, there's 2 super important ones to pick up for this build. They are Agonizing Blast and Grasp of Hadar. Agonizing Blast is always good for any Warlock trying to build for sustained damage, and Grasp of Hadar will be super important to combo with the spell we're getting later on. At level 4 will be a Sorcerer 2, and this will give us access to the Font of Magic feature. This gives us 2 sorcery points, and we'll get 1 per sorcerer level going forward, and we're able to convert these sorcery points to spell slots and spell slots to sorcery points. And there will be additional uses for sorcery points later on, but this is the beginning of the Coffee Lock combo that is exclusive to Sorlocks. So if you don't know, once you're out of spell slots or getting low, you can take a short rest, which will refill your Warlock spell slots. Now you can use the Font of Magic feature to convert those Warlock spell slots into sorcery points. And then you can convert those sorcery points back into sorcerer spell slots, and then you can repeat that again, taking another short rest, or even more short rests, and eventually fill up on all of your resources without taking a long rest. But that's it for level 4. At level 5 will be a Sorcerer 3, and we'll get Meta Magic, another use for sorcery points. The only one we need for this build is Quicken Spell, so I would take that one, but For the other one, pick whichever you would like. And we also get second level spells. I would pick up Spiritual Weapon and Web. Web is probably our new best concentration option until we get another one at Sorcerer 5. And Spiritual Weapon will be one of the best sustained damage options for the rest of our character's career. At level 6 will be a Sorcerer 4 and we'll get our first ability score increase or feat. Here I would pick up Warcaster for the better concentration checks and because we'll be equipping a shield later on in this build, so I want to be able to do that and still cast spells. At level 7 will be a Sorcerer 5, and this is where the build finally comes together as we get third level spells, and since we have access to the Cleric spell list, we get Spirit Guardians. This will be our main concentration option for the rest of our character's career. It'll be our best sustained damage option, and it does decent control as well. And we also get Magical Guidance here at Sorcerer 5. It allows us to spend sorcery points to reroll our ability checks, which is super nice for those important ability checks that will come up. And since this is where the build sort of comes together, we'll go ahead and talk about our tactics for this build during combat. So our main tactic here is going to be starting off with Spirit Guardians and then going up to 1 or 2 enemies and then Eldritch Blasting them using Grasp of Hadar to pull them into the Spirit Guardians. And this will make them take damage when they enter the Spirit Guardians, and then they'll take the damage again on the start of their turn. This greatly increases the damage output of our Spirit Guardians. And on top of taking the damage twice, their movement speed will also be halved once they're inside the Spirit Guardians. And on subsequent turns, once you have this set up, you can cast a Spiritual Weapon to weaponize your bonus action for even more sustained damage. And if you miss a target or get 3 targets within range of your Spirit Guardians, you can use the Telekinetic feat to pull them 5 feet into the Spirit Guardians. And to keep our damage high here, I would recommend trying to get at least 1 new target, one that hasn't been affected by Spirit Guardians that round, into the Spirit Guardians. When I explain the sustained damage numbers, this is what I assume you're doing. I get that it's not always possible to do this with multiple targets each round, but it's just fun to explore what's possible. And even if you're only able to get 1 target each round, the damage of this build is still very good. With all of that said, our damage against a 16 AC and a 60% chance to succeed the saving throw of our Spirit Guardians. Against 1 target, we would do 35.88 damage, and against 2 targets, we'll deal 54.48 damage per round. This is some incredible damage for a level 7 character, and we have some of the best healing options as well, but it keeps getting better. At level 8 will be a Warlock 3. This is for 2 reasons. To pick up the Pact of the Chain so we can get the Find Familiar spell. I'm not going to assume you're doing this, but you can use the Familiar's help action to give you advantage on one of your Eldritch Blasts. And we're also doing this to make our Warlock spell slots 2nd level to improve our Coffee Lock combo. And at level 9, we'll be back to Sorcerer and we'll be Sorcerer 6. We get Empowered Healing from Divine Soul. Not really the best feature, but I think the rest of Divine Soul and access to the Cleric spell list does make it worth it. And at level 10 will be a Sorcerer 7. We do get 4th level spells here. There are tons of good options: Polymorph, Dimension Door, etc. Pick whichever ones you would like. For maximum sustained damage, you should just be upcasting Spirit Guardians, but that might not always be the correct thing to do. Just go based off your situation. At level 11 will be a Sorcerer 8, and we get another ability score increase or feat. This time I'll be recommending Moderately Armored. This isn't a feat I see taken very often, and I definitely don't take it very often. But taking this feat with the +1 to Dexterity, picking up some half plate and a shield, this increases our AC by 6, so I think it's worth it to go from a 13 to a 19. And it will also give us an extra bump to our Dexterity checks and saving throws. And also here at level 11, our Eldritch Blast goes up to 3 beams, giving us the potential to get 3 new targets in our Spirit Guardians, or another chance to hit if you're only doing 1 or 2 targets. And at level 12 will be a Sorcerer 9. We get 5th level spells here. Again, for max damage, just keep upcasting Spirit Guardians, but there are some amazing options here that you might want to do instead. Just pick whichever spells you'd like and go based off the situation you're in. And this will pretty much be the case every time we get a new level of spell. Just upcast Spirit Guardians for best damage, but if you want to cast something else instead, go for it. At level 13 here will be a Sorcerer 10, and we get an additional metamagic option. Quicken Spell is really the only one we need just to get our Grasp of Hadar and Spirit Guardians combo going in 1 turn. Just pick whichever one you would like. At level 14 will be a Sorcerer 11. We get 6th level spells here, and obviously our best damage is still upcasting Spirit Guardians, but a cool option here for your 6th level spell is Heal from the Cleric spell list. This might be the best use of our 6th level slot because we can cast Heal and we can use the Twin spell meta magic option if you took that to heal 2 allies for 70 hit points each, and you can also possibly end a condition on them as well. And on to level 15 will be a Sorcerer 12. We get another ability score increase or feat, and I would take Resilient Wisdom here to bump us up to a 14 and give us proficiency in Wisdom saving throws. Just to shore up our defenses, Wisdom saving throws can be super rough. If you fail them, they can shut you down or even mind control you at worst. And at level 16 will be a Sorcerer 13. We get to 7th level spells, of which there are way too many good ones to name, but it's still for max damage, I would say keep upcasting Spirit Guardians. At level 17 will be a Sorcerer 14, and we get the Angelic Form feature from Divine Soul. This is concentration free flying that you can use an unlimited amount. This is super nice, even this late in the game. And for the end of the build here, we're just going to go ahead and group levels 18 through 20 together. During that time, you'll be a Sorcerer 15 through 17. We'll pick up 8th and 9th level spells. Again, obviously a lot of great options here, but for sustained damage numbers, we're just going to keep assuming you're upcasting Spirit Guardians, though it may not always be the best option. And we do get our last ability score increase or feat. I'm going to say you should take a +2 to Charisma, and that's what I'll be assuming for the final damage numbers. But another good option is the Tough feat, since we can Eldritch Blast and pull up to 4 targets now, and that can get kind of dangerous even with the half movement speed. So the Tough feat wouldn't be a bad idea either. And for our tactics here at level 20, they're still pretty much the same, but like I said, you have 4 Eldritch Blasts. You can do potentially up to 4 new targets each turn. I understand this is really unlikely, and you'll likely only be getting 1 new target in per turn, but our damage is still quite good, even if you're only doing 1 target per turn. So here's our final damage numbers against a 20 AC and still a 60% chance of succeeding our saving throw, and we'll be assuming you're upcasting Spirit Guardians to 9th level and Spiritual Weapon to 8th level for these numbers. So versus 1 target, we will be dealing 97.4 damage per round. Against 2 targets, we'll be dealing 153.8 damage per round. Against 3 new targets, we'll be dealing 210.2 damage per round. And if you somehow get the 4 new targets per round, you will be dealing 266.6 damage per round. I understand that will be very circumstantial and you might not ever get to do that, but even if you only get to do that 1 round, this isn't a terrible Nova build. But that's the end of the build. Thank you guys for watching. Comment down below, let me know what you guys thought of the build. If you want to see our last build guide, you can check that out here. But have an awesome day, and we'll see you in the next one.